This is a message from Andy. It starts off, I'm worried that I'm overtraining, but how do I know? A typical working day is 30 minutes on the trainer, 3 sessions of 60 press-ups and 60 sit-ups and a 30-minute walk. On a Friday afternoon, I go for a mountain bike ride of around 25 miles or a 30-minute run. Then on a Saturday, it's a 70-mile club ride along with more press-ups and sit-ups. And then on Sunday, it's 25 miles on the mountain bike with the same 60 sessions. I might do a 30-minute walk over the weekend too. Also, with the amount of exercise I do, I track what I eat. How do I know if I'm tired because I'm doing too much or if I'm not eating enough? The app says I'm meeting my needs most days. I do worry I have a borderline eating disorder because I do obsess about my weight. I try not to be influenced by what I watch and read, but a lot is made of not being too heavy. It's quite a heavy question.
Yeah, there's a lot in there. A lot of interesting things. I think a few things we've talked about already as well, sort of mentioned on, the weight side and that kind of thing. So it is impossible to say whether that this person is overtraining or not without actually having a conversation with them. I mean, the workload is one part of it, but if I was speaking to somebody, I wouldn't be asking them as much about how much training they'll be doing. I'd be asking about their body's response to the training. So, it's the input. But then really what I'm interested in is, how do you feel when you're not on the bike? When you stand up, do you get lightheaded? Is everything okay with your sleep patterns, libido, that kind of thing? All these things are just your body's markers of whether it's healthy. And if they start to break down, then that is a symptom of overtraining. And I think one other thing which is interesting is, the app says my needs are, the app says I meet my needs most days, and I think there's definitely a danger for us to get too caught up in what this,
digital world.
Yeah.
In terms of calorie counting and that.
Calorie counting, training as well. Even we talk about TSS whenever we're talking about training load, and people get obsessed with the figures, and in the same way as I was talking about earlier with power meters, the figures have a massive amount of use and can be very, very beneficial. But at the same time, it's easy to get too bogged down in them. And really what's most important is the signals that you're reading from your body. And I think even, as I said before, most cyclists have the tendency to overdo it. And even if you're at the point where you're asking that question, am I overtrained? There's a good chance you are. So what I would probably be suggesting would be try doing a bit less, cut it down. Take 2 days in the week where you don't do anything. Don't train at all. And then see how that, or limit your weekend miles slightly or whatever, and see how your body responds to that.
Both physically and mentally.
Absolutely.
How do you feel mentally about not doing that work? I think is a really important point.
And I think a lot of it is, and I'm not commenting on this particular person, but a lot of cyclists, it's an obsessive level of, exercise that they feel like they need to do it. And it's a trap that lots of people fall into. To answer this person's question, I would need to really assess them, one-to-one, but there are lots of people in this situation who are overdoing it.
100%. And we've all kind of talked about our own experiences. Yeah. And similarly with me, I've been in a position where I have ultimately used exercise to mask calorie deficits and trying to lose weight from a purely aesthetical point of view. And the problem with doing it in sport is that you often get positive feedback from people. So I was telling you earlier, I used to do a lot of running and became, I would say, in quite a heavy pattern of disordered eating. And I would run to amass calories that I then felt that I could eat, and the feedback that I would get from runners around me through no fault of their own, but was, your physique is amazing. You look like you'd be a great marathon runner. Yeah. And in reality, mentally, I was screwed. I could not.
And that's, other runners probably looked at you and thought that, but then a lot of just normal people probably would have looked at you completely differently.
Yeah. And thought, oh my God. Yeah. But this is it, isn't it? And I think you can use those positive affirmations as proof that what you're doing is okay.
Another thing that kind of happens as well in cycling is Strava. I think a lot of people sometimes will, put these massive rides on Strava, or even go out and do these stupid training rides so that their friends can see them on Strava. And
I hate Strava.
I rarely use it, and there is so much of that kind of proving something to somebody when really, what are you doing it for? Are you doing this to impress your friends, or are you doing it to improve, or are you doing it because it's something you want to do?
I think the most important thing on this section as well is if you are worried about your health, either mentally or physically, you should speak to a health professional. You can find eating disorder support via beateatingdisorders.org.uk.